Hi everyone, welcome back. This is going to be the last chapter of this course. So we are almost done, and today we will discuss some applications and case studies based on the previous chapters that we have learned so far: link analysis, node analysis, community detection, right, cascade, and so on. And we have seen we will try to see we'll try to understand for different applications how one can use different methods of social network analysis, right, to solve the problems. Okay, so let's start by a very basic introduction of how we generally solve a real world problem, right. So whenever we are given a real world problem, say for example the problem is to identify fraud users, right, fake accounts on social network. So you are given a lot of information, say you know the user history, you know the underlying connections, you know the messages, you know who has retweeted which tweet, you know who has messaged to which person, and so on. So from all sorts of information, what would be our important information that we will use for modeling purposes? This is something that we want to understand. Now, depending upon a particular application, say the application is fraud detection, what would be the approaches, or what would be the components that we are going to use to model this problem. Okay, so whenever we are given a problem, we always think that, well, this problem is very tough, and how do we use it? There is no network as such. How do we use it? For example, say if we collect data from YouTube, right, and you have YouTube videos, comments, right, replies, and so on, and the task is to identify say fraudulent comments, right, fake comments. So you may wonder, where is the network here, right? There is no network as such. There is no explicit network as such. So then we start pondering about about how to abstract the data that we have, and how to come up with some sort of relations between entities. Here the entities can be, say, users, the comments, or videos, and so on, right. For example, we want to connect two users based on the set of videos that these two users have viewed together, or the set of videos on which these two users have commented together, right. So there are multiple ways to create a network. So then the question is, what would be the appropriate network construction mechanism? Should we consider video, and based on the common watching property we will connect two users, or we will connect two users based on the comments, right, say similar types of comments. So we do not know which method would turn out to be useful. So in this chapter I will try to give you a glimpse of how people generally address a particular problem, right, based on the heterogeneous data that we have, right. So so the first question is, how can we model problem statements into networks? So the statements is imprecise, it is not very concrete, statement is complex, right. Can we employ different network algorithms from earlier chapters on the modeling on modeling the network? For example, when we employ network algorithms, and how we employ network algorithms, right. Can we so can these network methods be used for a particular real world use case? For example, malicious activities in online social network, detecting malicious activities, right, identifying the spread of this deadly COVID-19 pandemic, right, designing recommendation system, and so on. So it is not always the case that if you are given any problem statement, you directly start coming up with a network and then try to solve it. You may want to use classical machine learning techniques to solve the problem, but you need to understand that, okay, for this problem I really need a network construction, because things are dependent, and if we do not see the entire picture as a whole, we won't be able to understand the dynamics, right. So, network plays an important role here to understand the relations between entities and give you the overall picture of the of the entire scenario. So, what we generally do, we divide any use case into two parts. We generally understand the background, we look at the literature, we also look at the previous methods have already been proposed on that particular problem statement, and then we also look at the modelings, the models that people have proposed so far, and then we try to come up with a methodology, and then try to evaluate the methodology and discuss the pros and cons of the method. Okay. So, this is generally the way we attack a problem, we approach a particular problem. Okay. So, let us start with the first use case. So, in this chapter we will essentially discuss 3-4 use cases. The first one would be understanding malicious activities in online social network. The second one would be understanding COVID-19 spread, right. We will look into this SIR, SIS kind of models and see whether those models are really helpful in COVID-19 spread modeling. And the third one is a recommendation system. I will not go into the details of all these applications. I will try to again give you an overview of this, because this each of these topics itself is a course altogether. So, therefore, I will try to give you a brief of each of these applications, so that you will understand how to address a problem, right. So, let us start with identifying malicious activities, and this is very close to me, because my lab has been working on this problem since last 3-4 years, and we have done a lot of work on identifying fraud users, fake accounts, fake news, misinformation, hate speech and so on. All this all these malicious activities come under the overall umbrella of cyber crime and cyber safety. Okay. So, social network is kind of a gift to us, because we use social network freely with a lot of freedom, without thinking much about the repercussion of our content and so on. Whereas this freedom of speech, or this freedom has often been misused by malicious users to write fraud comments, fake comments, fraud activities and so on and so forth. So, if you look at the statistics, if you look at the activities, I think 10 to 15% of activities are actually malicious activities, right, harmful activities. Okay. So, therefore, it is an utmost interest to the social network administrators, Twitter, Facebook, to stop the spread of such malicious activities, right. So, I will try to give you an overview of 2 such malicious activities, right. One is in terms of identifying something called sock puppets, right. We will see how sock puppets are being created by by not administrators, by controllers. They are called puppet masters. So, how these sock puppets are being created and how they manipulate users' opinion on social media, and particularly how social network analysis techniques can be used to detect such sock puppet accounts, right. And then we discuss another malicious activities, which basically happens through something called black market services, right. Now, what are black market services? So, say for example, you want to promote your account, you want to promote some event, but you do not have enough reach, right. So, you approach this black market service. There are many such black market services available online. You approach them and you basically tell them to boost your account, to boost your post, right. And what they do, they would systematically boost your event, boost your account in an inorganic manner, which would be apparently difficult to detect, right. But if you understand the network analysis techniques well, you would be able to know that okay, how things are controlled by black market agencies and how you can identify such collusive activities, which basically are controlled by black market activities, black market services. So we will talk about how to detect black market activities, right, in a systematic manner using social network analysis. So if you look at the the overall spectrum of misinformation, fraud, fake, so there are essentially two dimensions of it. One is whether a particular information is false, right, and the other is what was the intention behind spreading a misinformation, right. So false information, whether it is false, and the other dimension is whether it is intentionally created to harm somebody, right. So based on these two dimensions, right, falseness of the information and intention, right, we try to categorize fake news. So fake news is a very broad, I would say the broad term, right. In fact, people say that fake news is an oxymoron, because a news by default is always true. So fake news, the word fake and news should not appear together side by side. Anyways, but I am not going through details of the definition of what is fake news or not, but over the years people tried to come up with a strong definition of fake news, and they said that let us not call it as fake news, let us call it as either misinformation or disinformation or malinformation. So this misinformation is basically those information or those news which is false, of course, but false connections with some misleading content, okay. But when people write misinformation, there may not be a bad intention behind it, right. Say for example, you report that there were 10 people who were killed yesterday in some riot, right. So instead of write, so let us assume that the actual number is 5, but you mistakenly wrote as 10, right. It does not matter, because if you look at the repercussion, does not have that repercussion, right. So those kind of news articles are called misinformation. Those are false, but the intention is not that bad. Whereas in the other spectrum, you have something called malinformation, which is kind of a leak. For example, if you look at pornographic videos, right, where people replace someone's face with somebody else and basically try to malign someone, right. So harassment, all these video leaks, these are false, but these are intentional, right, to harm somebody or to harm a group of people, say a minority people, right, or a minority group or a society as a whole, right. So those are called malinformation. In between misinformation and malinformation, we have another type of fake news, which is called disinformation. So disinformation is something which is false as well as spread intentionally, right. And whenever we refer to fake news, we generally refer to disinformation, because it basically considers misinformation and malinformation together, okay. I mean, I can speak a lot about misinformation, fake news, etc., but let us not go into that details. If you are really interested, you can look at some of the papers published in last 3-4 years. There are a lot of papers on misinformation, fake news. So in this context, if you are given a social network, say a Facebook network or a Twitter network, right? How do we use the information to create a network? We have discussed this thing in the previous lectures, but let us look at it again. Say Facebook, right? So in case of Facebook, you have 3 types of nodes: users, posts and groups, right? Users, groups and say post, right? And you have different types of links. You have friendship link, you have reactions to a post link. You can also consider creation of a post link. You can also have messages link. If somebody sends a message to someone else, you can think of a link. So this is user to user, this is user to post, this is user to post, this is user to user, and this is group membership, user to group, right. Similarly, in case of Twitter, you can think of users, right, unregistered persons, post, groups as different types of nodes, heterogeneous nodes, and you have following, right, U to U, reactions on post, U to P, creation of post, U to P, messages, U to U, and group membership, U to G. Okay. Similarly, if you look at a professional network like LinkedIn, you can think of nodes like users, right, again unregistered persons, posts, groups, skills and jobs, and then you can have links like connections between user to user, group membership between user to group, then posting between user to post, reaction on post between post to user, messages between user to user. Now this post can be jobs, can be any other normal post, it can be endorsement between a user and a skill, right, it can be invitations between user and user, it can be recommending a job between user to post, the post is a job, and then to user, right. If you think of a network or online media like YouTube, right, as I was mentioning, there is no explicit network, right. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, there are explicit networks, but Twitter there is no explicit user interaction network. So what you can do, you can think of different videos, right, and you can create bipartite graphs, user cross videos, and from this bipartite graph you can think of a unipartite graph, a projection to the user partition, where nodes can be users, and if two users have watched at least one video together, then you can connect these two users, and if they have watched multiple videos, then the number of videos would be the weights of the edges, say 5, 10 and so on. So in this way, in fact this is one way. Another approach can be say you have users and users have written different comments, right, you look at the comments and look at the similarity between comments, and then based on that you connect to users, right, and the weight of this link would be the similarity of the comments that they have posted, right. So this can be another way to create a network. Similarly, you can also think of a video centric network where say you have a video, right, and you have comments, right, level 1 comments, and then somebody has replied to this comment, level 2 comments, right. So you can think of a tree like structure under a particular video, and then you can connect multiple videos to another level where this connection happens based on the topical similarity of videos. For example, both the videos are on Indian election, so you can connect videos together, and you can think of another heterogeneous tree like this, okay. So what I basically wanted to say is that there are different types of graphs that one can construct from a data set. Now which graph is useful for which purposes, this would be dependent on the application that we have. It also depends on your previous expertise, right. How quickly you understand which network would be useful, all depends on how much work you have done in this particular field in the past, right. So in the next lecture we will discuss one application. As I mentioned earlier, we will try to identify sock puppets, right, dummy accounts which are controlled by different puppet masters, and these are fake accounts, fraud accounts. They are used for malicious purposes, and we will see how people have used network analysis, a bit of natural language processing techniques for detecting sock puppets. Okay, thank you.